Text Expander from Smile is supporting this edition of MacVoices. Text Expander can help you be more productive in every single application on your Mac. Find out how at textexpander.com. Welcome to MacVoices. This is the talk of the Apple community, and I'm Chuck Joyner. This is the second part of a MacVoices live discussion with Jeff Gamet, David Ginsburg, and Frank Petrie. And we pick up where we left off as Jeff is discussing running the developer version of the Big Sur Beta. By David's groan, I have a funny feeling that he did give it the file vault password.
No,
it's probably fine. But
no, I mean, I'm one to when I install the betas on iOS, I do it on separate devices. I will not do it on my daily drivers, I should say. But me too have this type of drive like you have, and I've done it external and done it that way. I've done it virtually using something like Parallels. But I've got what's good is I have two older devices, 2014 model machines it actually works amazing. But I definitely don't promote partitioning your existing machine and attempting to dual boot because I just always had bad luck with that. So that's how I've always gone about it. At the very least, just do it on an external. I think you'll be much happier.
Yes.
So this is just going to be for the people that are actually watching this live, but you both held up SanDisk hard drives.
Yes, we did.
Joe Kissel told me about those a while back too, and so I have one ordered. And the reason I said it's only going to be for people that are watching this live because today, June 30th, there is a special deal. You can get a 1 terabyte. I think it was for like $137 on Amazon.
Really?
Oh, for that, yeah.
Back Christmas time last year, I bought two of these. So this is one of them. I have two others sitting on that are plugged in right now. So I have three. That it was $127.
Wow!
I couldn't believe it. I mean, that's why I said I got to buy these. This isn't going to be the price again. They had, I don't know if Chuck, if you went to the Showstoppers event, but they did announce these drives, the SanDisk Extreme Pros, which is they're faster. I think like 1,500 per second drive speed now, but they're more money, of course. 1 terabyte's pushing close to $200 now. So because of the faster, but I'm telling you, these drives are amazing. They're just so fast. I mean, right now, unfortunately, I'm running on a Mac Mini using my carbon copy cloner drive because my MacBook Pro decided to stop working, and it's with Apple as we speak. So I'm running on this type of drive, and it's amazing how fast it is.
How do you compare that to like a T5 Samsung?
He's been great to me.
Yeah, I agree.
You like them better?
It depends on my use, but if I were to buy one over the other, unless there's like a crazy deal, I'd probably pick up more of the SanDisk because I've had such good luck with them.
Yeah, I've got the T5, and I like it. I like it a lot. But this is going to sound crazy. It's almost too small and too light. It's so small and so light that if I don't have it resting on something, and the cable moves, it moves the whole drive. Now with an SSD, that's not a big deal, but still,
Well, what I do is I use mine as a boot, and I just went and bought a lot of Velcro and just put it on the stand.
And see, for something like that, there you go. One of the things I love about this SanDisk is that it's light, it's small, it's durable, and it's fast. And just so you can get a better idea of size, this is an iPhone 10, and there you go. That's the SanDisk on the screen.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I'll even double that. That's the iPhone XS Max, and that's the size you got here. So
yeah, it makes it look even smaller on your phone.
Yeah. I should say that the 11 Pro Max. Excuse me.
Yeah, it also comes with the USB-C cable.
I got the same one. We're bad here. Like show and tell here today.
Yep, and to go with it, it includes USB-C to A adapter.
That too. Yeah,
and the adapters for 3.1.
Yep,
very nice.
Yeah, it's a great little drive.
Yeah, I think they said mine.
I might grab another one. Just I love having these drives.
I'm with you. Chuck, don't forget to send SanDisk their ad placement bill as well.
Yeah. Well, I brought it up, so that's a freebie for the viewers and listeners, and because it's a great drive at the regular price. This was just one of those deals. It's like as soon as I saw it, it's like, shoot, there goes another $130 because I've got to order it.
Yeah. To go along with that, watch Best Buy and Costco because they both carry these drives, and odds are one or the other is going to have them on sale when you're ready to buy.
Yeah, in fact, I got this gray one. I think was Costco exclusive. That's why I got, because I had the other ones. I have is this one like you have, and so they
Now,
must.
can
They
you
must
get that
have
online, or do you have to go to the
colors.
store?
I think you can do both.
Yeah.
As long as do you have to be a Costco member to order online?
Yes, you
I
do.
would think so. Do you?
Yeah. Oh, yes, that's right. So, but with Best Buy, you can get the deal online or in the store.
Right. Right. Okay. Guys, the other thing I put on the agenda today, this morning, Ken Ray on macOSKen. If you didn't listen to that, I really think you should, because one of his pieces this morning talked about how some of the developers who are receiving their Mac Minis are now benchmarking those Mac Minis and publishing the results, which is in violation of the NDA they're signing to get those devices.
This is true.
And Ken, I won't do Ken's commentary because you need to go and hear it because it's his opinion. But bottom line, I agree with him. I think this is wrong, and this has been done before by developers with betas of some of the different software that have come out in the last few years. There was a time that Apple was like super stringent, and they would have bounced these guys out on their heads. And now it seems to be a bit more of an accepted practice, which bothers me a lot because I'm one of those guys that I don't. And Jeff, you've been in the Mac journalist kind of thing. But if somebody says to me, "Hey, we're releasing this under the table," or if I can find out about something, I'm not going to come out and break it or leak it. Like, leaking seems to have become a sport almost. And it's like, I respect you, for you want to do the big splash and you want to do it in your way when it's ready, as opposed to somebody spoiling it by saying, "Hey, I heard about this thing, that the next Mac will, let us do time travel." No, that's for you to announce. And so, and listen, I may be talking about some of our friends here. I don't know because I haven't gone out and looked to see who's doing it, but I know it's being done. And I'm not going to speak for Ken, so I'll just speak for me. But am I off base in feeling like that?
No. I don't think so. I think, I have a developer account and I feel a little nervous whenever, I'm doing an iOS podcast and I want to share, whatever, everything that's being spoken about. But I think most of what's being talked about during during the keynote last week was you've got that information already. And I've seen Apple change over the years that they continue to share more and more information about their betas. And I don't think they're as stringent, like you said, as they should be. I mean, shame on them for doing it on the developers kit. They should not have done that. I mean, Apple explicitly said that you should not do that. Besides the fact they're going to have to return that device anyway, so they're not going to be able to keep it. So, but I think it's I agree with you. I don't think it's right to be doing that. It just isn't right. You really shouldn't be sharing that information.
Did they have the same problem when they went over to Intel? I know they gave out the cheese graters. Did they have to return the cheese graters also as well?
Yes, they did. Although Apple wasn't very thorough about making sure they got them back. So quite a few people that got the cheese graters were actually able to keep them.
Yeah, but those, I mean, I'm sure the shipping costs on those was significant. The shipping costs on a Mac Mini wouldn't be nearly as big a deal. So, and again, I will point you to Ken's show, and I'll have links in the show notes to when this is published to go to that, because Ken had some very good reasons for saying that basically the benchmarks are meaningless when it comes to the consumer. And
Right.
I don't want to steal his thunder. But his points were so well taken that I wanted to bring it up and just see if he's off base and if I'm off base, because I'm on his base. And I think I think this group at least agrees.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had guidelines that I worked with back when I was managing editor at MacObserver, and the guidelines were: if you have agreed to an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, then you will honor the NDA, and that can change. Meaning, if the company releases information that's covered under the NDA before the lift date, that information is no longer NDA. So now you can talk about it openly. If a company sends you information that's NDA without actually getting you to agree to an NDA first, that's not NDA. They've just given you public information. But now you need to decide, do I run with that or not? Is it a company where I don't want to burn a bridge? And if you don't want to burn the bridge, then you don't cover it. And then of course other people are going to cover it. And at that point, the NDA is broken. And then you decide how you're going to deal with it. But if you've agreed to an NDA, then my feeling is that you have to honor that, or you've just screwed yourself and potentially other people. Everything that Apple covered during the keynote, that is not NDA. So all of these media people and developers that are talking about the features that Apple showed off in their operating systems during the keynote, have at it. And I think it's great. And even though these people are diving a little deeper under the hood into those features, I don't see that as a violation of the NDA, because Apple just openly told us about these features. So that makes them fair game.
I mean, it also makes it fair. I mean, it makes it fair game, just like what rumor sites do. I mean, I monitor rumor sites every day, and I find it interesting to see what's going to come, and you got to use judgment. Do you want to use that particular article, especially when I'm doing it on a podcast? Is it something that's pertinent to Apple, to thinking it? Is it going to be something that may happen? So there's kind of a fine line. Well, do you look at that information, or you just kind of like, okay, just kind of push it off? There was an article today in MacObserver from John Martellaro about now we know why Macs are moving to Apple Silicon. And if you caught that article, it just released a couple hours ago. Interesting read. I'm surprised MacObserver would publish something like that, because I think more of it being a type of a rumor type of a discussion than it was a fact.
MacVoices is supported by Smile, the makers of world-class software like TextExpander. If there is one productivity utility that you check out this month, it should be TextExpander. That's a pretty bold statement, so let me explain. TextExpander is one of those utilities that will benefit any Apple user, because we all have things that we type over and over. That means you are wasting time typing those things over and over. That means you might get sloppy with it and make mistakes in typing those things over and over. TextExpander to the rescue. In literally seconds, you can set up a short string of characters that text expands into those things that you type over and over, automatically, quickly, correctly every single time. And those things can be as short as your email address, or as long as a several-page set of instructions on how to change the bag in your vacuum cleaner. Whatever. The point is that everyone can get something out of TextExpander, even at its most basic level. And believe me, there is a whole lot more on top of that basic level. For now, though, visit smilesoftware.com/podcast to download a demo version of TextExpander, install it, and start being more productive in a few minutes. That's smilesoftware.com/podcast for your copy of TextExpander. And while you're there, be sure to check out PDFpen and PDFpen Pro, two other world-class utilities from Smile. Thank you to Smile for being the longest-running sponsor of MacVoices. Yeah, the whole rumor thing, after a while, I just get burned out on it. Not only for spoiling the surprises, but also for sorry, somebody else wants in, I believe. But also also just because there's so many times it's wrong. And, that bothers me, that, I don't want to be, I got enough to learn and pay attention to and keep up with without looking at a bunch of rumors. And that's, an issue.
Okay. Here's the place where, for me, rumors can have value. And it's when I can see various rumors over time where I'm looking at the original source. And by that I mean, if there's 10 websites that are all saying the same thing for a rumor, odds are I can trace it all back to one source. The original place where the rumor was posted. Okay, so now I can follow the original sources for rumors over time, and I can look at trends and patterns. And if they are rumor sources that have a track record of accuracy, then it's easier to take that information and build a sketch, if you will, of what's going on. But it's not something that I have ever looked at as, well, we have this rumor, therefore it's fact. And one of my favorites of this was a few years ago, and I can't remember what the feature was, but what happened was John Gruber, during Fireball, he wrote an article where he speculated on features. And then someone else picked up on that, and it shifted from speculation to this is what's happening. And it became this big circle. And pretty soon, and when I say pretty soon, I think it was over the course of just a few days, it went from John Gruber speculating on what would be an interesting feature to this is what Apple is doing. And you were seeing like stock prices changing because people were saying this is the thing that's happening. And I'm on podcasts and writing articles where I'm saying, what is wrong with people? Because here's the original John Gruber speculation. This is not fact. This is him saying something that that he's just kind of speculating on. And we see stuff like that all the time. Anyhow, to me, it's just another example of why it's so important to follow this stuff back and see where it comes from, and then decide how you want to deal with it. Now, the easier thing is just don't pay attention to rumors, and you don't have to spend hours researching where this stuff is coming from and figure out what has the potential to be legit and what doesn't.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jeff. I agree with you. And you mentioned the stock price, and that's something that has always bugged me, because as Macworld approaches, as WWDC keynotes approach, you get all these rumors and all this hype, and interestingly, it didn't happen this time. But so often that you see the afternoon of the keynote or the next day, the stock price fall off because they've been built up on rumors. And a lot of times there are rumors that just no company could possibly, address all of those things. I mean, they were just so unrealistic. And yet there's this fervor to, buy Apple. And then when they don't get what was rumored being announced, well, then, okay, I've made a mistake. I got to get out. And so it just, I guess it's just human nature, but it just never struck me as terribly responsible for some of the press to cover some of the rumors the way they did.
The other thing I'm noticing that's really interesting as of late, Craig Federighi has been very open to interviewing with John Gruber, and then this time around I watched him with Marcus Brownlee, and they're very open. And Jaws was on the interview, one of them with them as well, and I found it interesting to see that Craig was very open and talked everything he could about products and really being open to giving more extra discussion than we normally hear during keynotes. So it's interesting to see how Apple has become a little more looser when it comes to that, because you know how tight they always were with the press. They didn't want anybody really of a big name like Craig would want to talk much about what they're working on. Of course, any discussion of any future products is off limits, and he said that during Marcus's interview that I can't talk about that. So he warned him ahead of time, don't go down that road, because I can't talk about it. But he was very genuine, very nice, very easy to work with, to discuss. It was a really good interview. I was very impressed, as well as being able to find even more than what we found out by just spending the time watching all the events and the keynote and the State of the Union and all the other stuff. So I think a lot of things have changed with Apple in the last few years with that.
Has it felt like it's felt like from the stuff I've read and from the stuff Apple puts out, that somehow they've got a whole different mindset of how they're approaching this in September. It's like the way they're dealing with the public, the way they're carrying themselves. I don't know. Is that just me?
No,
it's not just you.
No, it's not just you. I agree with you, Frank. I think there's a little, it's slowly but surely over the last couple of years, there's a little more tendency or willingness maybe to answer the question, why? Why this decision? Because some of the pundits don't agree with it. And they don't do it for everything, of course, or they end up justifying everything from, the color of the bezel on down. But on certain key things, they seem to be a little more inclined to say, this is why we decided to go this direction with this. And then the pundits, of course, turn right around and say, well, that's just Apple's spin. But, maybe it is and maybe it isn't. But at least there is a reason. Because in the older days, Apple would have just either been no comment or thrown somebody out on their ear.
Right. That was my point with Craig. I mean, he would go through a little more in depth of what went into their decision. He says he was running Big Sur for quite a while and getting during the interview process and understanding what they went through to make decisions why they did this or this in iOS or Big Sur or the other operating systems that are out there. So,
well, Apple is in a unique position with this hardware transition compared to their previous hardware transitions. And that's because they've actually had, and I'm using this term loosely, a reference platform in the wild for years. So they've been able to collect a lot of information about how the various components come together to make this new Mac. And that's because we've had iPads and iPhones in the wild. And a lot of what's happening under the hood with the ARM processors, the Apple Silicon, they've had it in the wild for years. And I have said more than once that I feel that the iPad Pro is the iPod Nano of its time. And the iPod Nano was, to me, a test bed for iPod features. And what worked and didn't work on the iPod Nano would translate into future product features on the rest of the iPad line. And I look at the iPad Pro as that test bed for the Mac. And we've seen a lot of changes in improvements in the iPad Pro over the years. And you can look at a lot of what's been happening there and extrapolate that out into this new Apple Silicon Mac. Brian Chaffin completely disagrees with me on this, and I'm totally fine with him being wrong. I still love him. But seriously, I mean, look at everything that we have going on with the iPad Pro, even down to this new Magic Keyboard case with the trackpad built in. It is so close to being a desktop computer. And it gives us a lot of information, I think, about what to expect from the Apple Silicon Macs.
I give you a lot of credit, Jeff. I never thought of the iPod Nano as the test bed for the regular iPod. So And I'm not sure I completely agree with you. I see why you would say that about the iPad Pro. I guess the reason I would challenge it, and I have not heard Brian's arguments, so if I'm echoing them, it's because we just happen to be in sync, which doesn't happen very often. But because because iOS or iPad OS is still it's got some multitasking features, but it's not quite there yet. It's really not there yet. It's much more iOS like than it is Mac like. And so, yeah, testing some features maybe, and maybe the keyboard, but not quite sure I swing with you on that.
That's okay. You'll come around to this. It's not like I'm looking at the iPad Pro as this is a device that was created solely to be a test bed for future Mac development. But this is a device that has capabilities that let Apple test things that can be part of an ARM-based Mac, and to see how these features work in the wild. And that can be little things like, well, if we're looking at how the processor and our own video technology interact, what sort of efficiencies or deficiencies are we seeing as these elements are sending data back and forth on the motherboard? Okay, now we can see where we can enhance this and make it even better when we put it in a Mac. How do these interface elements work at when we throw in mouse support? Okay, great. Now we can see how some of these elements will impact the changes we're making at Big Sur. That hardware side of it, though, I think that's the more important part, where they get to look and see how these elements that they're designing are working in a more professional use type scenario.
Okay, you just clarified it for me a little more, so I'm a little closer to you, because I was thinking you were talking about hardware features, and you're talking more about software.
It's hardware from under the hood perspective, like when you're getting down to the actual silicon.
Right.
But it's more about how you put all of it together and make it work as efficiently as possible. And the best way to figure out how to make that software and hardware work together is to put it out there and have people testing it.
Good point. Guys, we're approaching the end of our time together, but as always, I want to make sure we go around and let folks know where they can find you when you're not here sharing your information. And Jeff, I'll sort of go in the order of entry here. Right now, you are, as you said, looking for new opportunities. You've got a new project coming, but in the meantime, where can people find you?
The easiest place to find me would be Twitter and Instagram. I'm Gamet both places. And I get around, so it's easy to find me on a lot of podcasts. And then soon, another podcast.
Great. We'll be anxious to hear about it. As always, thanks for stopping by. It's a lot of fun.
I'm always excited when I get to hang out with you, Chuck. Like, seriously.
Well, I appreciate it. And I'm sorry that your life is that sad.
No, I'm that lucky.
You're that lucky. Good. Okay, good. Just keep telling yourself that. That's good. David, how about you?
Well, add the sentiment too. I enjoy hanging out with you as well, Chuck. So you have a lot of you have a lot of joy, add a lot of joy to our discussions here. So, but you can find me on my podcast, In Touch with iOS, and it's at intouchwithios.com. And I'm also on Twitter at DaveG65, and we may have Jeff on the show soon enough.
I'm excited.
Sounds good. Last but absolutely not least, Frank.
Well, you look for a sofa and you can find me looking for coin. And I just want to say thank you that you bring me on here, because it actually gives me some cred.
Well, you've got screencasts online. You contribute that to that.
Yeah, there's some serious cred happening there.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I've known Don for a long time. We've just been good friends. So
still cred.
Still cred.
Yeah, you know what's weird? I was talking to him the other day, and I was saying, we've if you look at his copyright dates, he's been doing his podcast for about 15 years. We've been doing the magazine for about 8 years. And now we got Rosemary Orchard coming in, Lee Garrett, and all these people. And I'm sort of like, I was asking, I said, is this starting to be the changeover where the new guards coming in and we're going out?
And the answer is?
It's an enhancement.
I'll know if the check clears.
Hey, thanks for being here, Frank. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for the invite.
Stop by every Tuesday.
Oh, sure.
Folks, I'm Chuck Joyner. This is Mac Voices, a Mac Voices Live. We'll be back again next Tuesday to do it again. As I've said in the past, if you haven't paid attention on some of the other shows or in the Mac Voices Dispatch, this is a bit of a test ground for Mac Voices. So we're trying different things. This time we just sort of threw an open mic night to see who might show up and what they want to talk about. And we got into peanut butter. Who knew? Until the next time, and as always, thanks for watching. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CacheFly at cachefly.com.